Morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Mike Lamb, Focal Point of Utah, and my good friend here is Adam Geheb of Focal Point of Cary.
That's
What's new,
right.
Adam?
What's new is I don't know. I mean, it's another busy week. A lot of coaching sessions today. A lot of coaching sessions. Good things. A lot of good progress. Tremendous growth. And there's nothing better that I love than watching my clients like have that epiphany moment and like just brighten. Right? It's like that light bulb pops on. I actually mentioned that to a guy this morning. I'm like, I think I see an aura around your head, and it's not your bald spot. So no, life is good. How about you, Mike?
Life is good as well. Same
Yeah.
thing. Lots of good coaching going on, and
Uh,
really enjoy the clients that I have and the time I get to spend with them. I wish I had more time to spend with them, and I think they do as well. But it just you try to cram it in an hour, and they got to
Yeah.
go and do from there. Because we if we coached at them all day, they wouldn't ever get everything done we want them to do. So
Isn't it crazy how quickly the hour goes?
yeah, it is.
Ah, man. Anyway, we're not sitting here today getting ready to talk about how quickly we coach or how we can blab on forever. So,
Yeah.
what is the topic of today, my friend?
All right. Today, wanted to talk about coaching not just the business owner and individual, but what
Mhm.
we can do as coaches for their team and engagement with their team.
A team dynamic.
And this is
Listen,
something I've done a few times recently, actually, is I've been working with a business owner. They've asked me to come and do a presentation for them and for their team.
yep,
Um, and
yep,
man, those ones are actually probably my favorite coaching events that I do. And
yes.
it helps build the team to, helps them develop a culture and communication within their organization.
So
Uh,
why is that? Why is that your favorite?
I think well though first of all, it's really easy as a coach to run. You're more of
We like
a
easy. We like easy. Yeah,
yeah, you're more of a participant and you're kind of keeping it on track and you start out the conversation. But when you get a great team of individuals, which I believe most of the businesses I coach hire people that are quality and have brought these individuals on because they are really excellent at what they do. And when
sure.
you get a room of four, five, six, seven, however many, and of those individuals together and you really open up the communication channels, wow, the
Yeah.
best things come out of that.
So I also love that dynamic, and I like the order of operations in which you laid it out there. You start with working with a leader. Why? That's what I enjoy doing, I should say. But why is that so important to me? I get all the core foundations of what they've done, what they're trying to do, where they're going. I spend some time really on the clarity, the awareness piece, and getting an understanding of the organization, right? The nuances, things that are working well, their biggest challenges, their fears. We talk a whole bunch about the org structure, the reporting structure, the communication within. What do you hear as the biggest gripes? Um, I love to go down that path first because I think it sets the stage for some of the bigger conversations. And I think bringing in more collectives into that conversational space is helpful not only for that leader to hear, but it helps get all the viewpoints, all the voices out in one room. And it's really, really easy to very quickly get to a point where you can identify those key problems. So, you know how when we use Gleischer's formula to evaluate the impact of change, one of the variables that we use is the D, the dissatisfaction. There has to be dissatisfaction about something that's existing within the organization. Well, the other key piece that we don't always talk about, at least on this show, is the value or level of that dissatisfaction. We say it's got to be high, but here's the kicker, Mike, and you know this well. It's got to be relatively universal. It
Yes.
can't just be dissatisfaction within one segment of the populace or one person's viewpoint. And so when you get that kind of team dynamic and that team group thing, and you get people talking about, clearly you start with positive things, but listen, we're all human. It starts to digress into the weeds and get a little, I don't know, rank. Um, but they start talking about some dissatisfaction. And when you see the people nodding and you start taking notes, and you look at that leader's response. I love being able to jump in there, right? There's been a group of things that haven't gone well. People start complaining. You can't turn it into a complaint fest, but you let that leader kind of give their response, and then it's like, all right, guys, time out, right? It's coaching time.
Yeah.
And then it's awesome to go jump in there and be like, why do you think this is? And you can really get into the dynamics of the team, why the level of satisfaction is greater here than here. It is such a good way to have healthy dialogue and discussion. So,
Yeah.
amen, brother. I'm with you. I think that is a fantastic use of time, but I can also never contain it to 1 hour, ever.
No, those I've never done one that didn't go over. So I
Yeah.
always put half hour after. But the thing that and just like you, it's like that dissatisfaction. What I've seen a few times is they're working in silos, right? The
Hmm.
dissatisfaction might be over here in one group and it's not getting communicated to another group, and just bringing them together as a team, all of a sudden this team's able to say, hey, this is what we're seeing and why we're wanting this, and this team finally is sitting in a room with them listening, and as a coach I get to kind of, like I say, open up that communication and
Yeah.
see the silos, and then let's talk about this, you know.
Yeah.
Let's work together, you guys, and it just opens up that communication, and you're more of a moderator.
We always talk about communication being at the basis for most of the problems that we work through with clients. And what you're describing is truly a left hand, right hand problem, right? They're not talking or they don't understand the impact.
Yeah.
And, not to make this a whole episode or show around communication, but let's spend a few minutes there. If you don't have open dialogue between all the avenues, right? Whether it be product, whether it be technical, whether it be marketing, sales, your financial team, whatever, right? You're missing the boat on truly getting the big picture on what the directional goals are, how they're being implemented, and more importantly, what's holding any one of those groups back from being able to really run with an idea. Think about this. If you're going to launch a new product line, all right, or you're going to launch a new feature of your product, or you're going to introduce a new service capability, and you get the build portion of that wrong, right? That throws off your sales team being able to go out and effectively sell. It throws off your marketing team, their timing on their messaging and when things will be available. It throws that huge monkey wrench in all the operations of the delivery of that thing,
Yeah, we're
whatever that is.
lacking crucial information
Yes.
between departments. So what is that crucial information? Well, you've got to tell them what that crucial information is
Yep.
so that they and ask it to be delivered to you.
Yeah. So not to go off on a tangent, but I find that those are the types of things that come out a whole lot when you get the group dynamic together.
Yeah. I found this in the trade industry. There's a big separation between the sales team and the operations team. Those two
I
silos.
don't think that's trade specific, buddy.
Sales team is selling a product that they didn't even know they had sometimes.
Or they're selling a product that doesn't exist,
Yeah,
right? It's like
we
I've
can do
seen
that
that
kind of
that
thing.
too. Like, whoa, how did we get here? Oh, well, we thought this was delivered in quarter 2, but it's not coming till quarter 4. Well, oops. No, but
Customers.
not just fixating on the communication piece. One of the other really important avenues that I see with group coaching is not just about airing, communication problems and getting everyone aware, but what you're doing when you bring the collective group in is you are showing the investment in the organization, in the team, in the people. Like, look, it's not just me, the leader, who's trying to get better or who is, making a step in my career ladder. I'm really trying to take the things that I've learned from this individual, because Mike, you're a fantastic coach. And, I've learned a ton from you. How can I leverage you down to every single person? Because as a great leader, that's what our goal is. It's to uplift every single person within the organization, get them all rowing in the same direction. And this is a great way to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah.
It truly is, right? I'm not just doing it, but guess what? I'm making it available to all of you because I want you to get the same benefits of knowledge, vision, and direction from Mike Lamb that I'm getting, you know?
Exactly. You bring in a coach in those kind of settings, it also can help you set a standard in
Hmm.
your organization that you want to. Maybe it's on education. We always want to educate. We want to grow as a team. You know what? We're all going to sit down together and we're going to learn this process. I'm going to own
Yeah.
it, and I'm going to give it to you to own as well. And this is the standard. If it's your sales process or if it's your leadership style and culture that you
I
want to
love that.
implement. Um, you set that standard, and the coach can come in as a third party. Sometimes maybe we've tried to implement something, it's just not gotten through. Bringing a coach in, an outside individual to come share and set that standard that you want across the board for your whole entire team.
Yes,
That I've seen that make huge waves in companies.
of course.
Bringing
Of
someone
course.
in and say, this is the new standard and this is what we're going to do going forward. And this is what I'm going to do. And I want all of you to hold there as well.
You've heard this probably 1,000 times, but sometimes it's not the message, it's the mouthpiece, right? It's who it's coming from. Now, I can go down into a whole different reason as to why that happens and what I want to work with and who I want to work with when that message is told to me. Well, maybe it'll mean something different coming from you. Yes, yes, it will. But now let's dive into why that is, right? That's a whole new ball of wax, but it's true, right? Sometimes it's not the message, it is the mouthpiece. And sometimes you just need to bring in that person to help facilitate or moderate the conversation and know that it's going to be an open discussion, right? There's not, it's a safe space. And yes, everyone says that, but when you have someone who's moderating that doesn't have, a dog in that proverbial fight or a vested interest in the outcome either way, you literally can be impartial and you elicit more questions. Our job is to ask questions, right? And we're going to ask questions either out of ignorance, is not true, but we can play that given card to make sure that we're getting the full spectrum of responses and everyone's view into whatever the topic is. And I feel like that's healthy for the organization.
Yeah, it's so healthy. Working and getting things communicated. Once it's funny how, even though they probably know that, having it articulated and drawn out of them, then it really applies to them better as a coach. Or as a coach, that's what I want to bring out of them because sometimes they may not have articulated it well, but then they'll say it
Yep,
and oh, this is yeah, that now they take ownership of that. They own it. And as a
I love
group,
that.
they own it. One of the greatest coaching events I've ever gone to was a company that hadn't had a sales process, brought everyone in the company together and wanted to have a sales process. They brought technicians, they brought admins, they brought salespeople in, and all the managers in as well. And they did a training for the entire team, and there was collaboration that lasted about 5 hours. This
Okay.
and it was called a boot camp, and they went through
Oh,
top to bottom boot
oh, the boot
for the
camps.
company, and acronyms came out of that for the
Yeah.
company that they use continue using, um, and their whole sales process was owned by every individual from beginning to end. Even the technicians could hold a salesman accountable to certain steps in the process if they
Yeah.
weren't doing it.
Okay.
Um, and so there was an agreement across the board. This is how we're going to do sales. And so everyone had ownership and they knew their part in it too. So if I'm an admin answering a phone, I can say, hey, I'm going to send you over to a salesman. He's going to ask you these questions. This is what it's part of, and they're able to even continue the process, and own it.
Okay, nice. Forgive me for my aversion to that word of boot camp. Um, I just I struggle with any type of coaching that thinks that you can solve all problems in a really small, truncated period of time. You don't get into those problems overnight. You don't solve them overnight. So sorry, it's just my own personal bias, but
Yeah.
I don't coach like that, right?
Yeah,
It's
and
not
it was
like
more of a coaching. Sorry, boot camp might not be the right phrase for it, but it was coaching all the way through, and it was
awesome. I get it. I get
creating
it.
a
Like I said,
process that was
it's just word association. I'm like, no
yeah.
thanks. But
You think of all
no,
those 90s Fox TV shows?
yes, yes, I'm thinking of all that, right? Here's something else that I think comes out of group coaching for a team dynamic. Especially when you start with your senior leaders, owners, bosses, CEOs, all that type of jazz. Um, you basically have one interaction point with the organization. You're going through that one pivot. And what comes out of the group setting is I call it coach saturation. People become more comfortable with doing a one-off reach out. So the volume of, sidebar conversations I have with members within that organization, emails, phone calls, and granted, you have to set your boundaries there, because you're not a personal coach for the entire organization, but still, you get where I'm going here. The saturation and the level of impact that you can have, the requests that come up through the organization. Hey, would it be okay if I got an hour of Adam's one-on-one time? You know, it really promotes that internal growth discussion and people's yearning for their own personal growth projections and patterns. And, you know, I've been a part of, excuse me, a couple of really great organizations that were all aboard with that and was like, absolutely, this is one of the outcomes that I was looking for, was to get that level of engagement and have people feel comfortable to then request for them, because everything has a cost, right? And nothing's free, and you have to balance time versus overhead versus need versus value and output. And I get all that, but just having the ability for people to understand what you do and what you can add to them, it gets them to reflect and think about how they could benefit. And people don't do a lot of that. They don't internalize and think about, well, what's good for me? I mean,
Yeah.
everyone thinks what's good for me when it comes to money and raises and all those things, but not so much about the personal growth. And a lot of those things are tied to your yearly goals, right? So
Mhm.
this is a great way to help people meet their education, learning, expansion, and growth goals. And it serves the entire populace of the organization, not just one. I wish more companies would actually do it.
How
That's just
many
me.
times have you been in a coaching session with a business leader and they've said, "Man, this person or this group on my team could really hear this or need this, use
If
this."
if they're great leaders, I hope all of them.
I
Uh,
think I probably hear it about 70% to 80% of the time when I'm running through a coaching topic that I hear
yeah.
them talking of individuals on their
Oh,
team.
so and
It's
so
kind of
would
like,
probably really benefit, right?
or
Yeah.
yeah, this
Yeah.
group. And that's it. They're already thinking of how it can change their organization. And then what it really does. I mean, sometimes they can go deliver that message individually to their team.
Sometimes.
Um,
Sometimes.
and that has worked, but it really helps to bring me in and have them there relaying it
Yeah.
as well. So you get the backing of the business owner,
Yep.
leader, and delivering it. So we're both in line delivering that same message to the team.
Yes. I think that's so spot on. Um, I may be a little sneaky in the way that I do it, but as I close down a one-on-one session, right, I will always ask, always, it's two questions. A, was this valuable, and what is your takeaway? Okay, that's question one, because we always end with that, because as you know, we like to know if we're doing a good job. But B is I follow that up with, is this valuable for anyone else in the org? right? And that's how actually I've progressed a lot of the one-on-one stuff into some team dynamic work because they'll tell me yes, and I'll be like, great, how many? Right? Is it one? And so is this a session that I repeat with one other person, or is this valuable in multiple levels? And then do we want to do like a small workshop, right? Do we want to do like a 90-minute or like a 3-hour workshop on X? And it's a great way to open that conversation to get the leader thinking about the benefits across the organization, right? I just think it's always beneficial for us as coaches to try to expand the level of knowledge because if you think about within an organization, Mike, the best way to keep everything kind of on track is to make sure that everyone has the same views and understanding of how you're going to work through a type of problem or how you're going to work through solutioning or the impacts. And if you can not universalize, but get more people on that same wavelength to the changes that you know are being made at the upper levels of your environment, man, that just makes the change process so much more easy and effective within all avenues of the organization.
Yeah. Um, I know this kind of has been a little bit of a plug just for group coaching, but I or team
Funny
coaching.
how that worked out.
But it really is so valuable to help. You're going to limit your success if you're not bringing your team together to communicate, collaborate, and have these engagements. I mean, companies from every size, even if you have 5 individuals on your team and you guys feel like you're in pretty good works with one another, I still think there's some benefit to be had in having those 5 individuals in a coaching session. If you have 15 managers and 200, 300 employees, well, let's work with those 15 managers so that it can get out to the rest of your employees.
Yep.
It's just there's just so much benefit. You get sharing of crucial information.
Yep.
You have more success. Everyone's collaborating better together. And honestly, there's some trust and psychological safety that comes from being in those group coaching sessions that you
Absolutely.
can't put a value on.
Not to go plug this anymore as we already are because it's shameless, but we'll keep doing it here. One of the use cases that I find extremely beneficial is the end of year review process with your management team, right? Getting them all aligned on the process and having that being coach facilitated, right? You can have it HR facilitated if that's, what you do, but having someone who's truly impartial and being able to give tips, tricks, and techniques on evaluation, how to share evaluations when skill sets are not evenly valued across the different disciplines, things of that nature. But I have had really great success at coming in and doing group level work at the managerial space at end of year, at review, prior to doing global goal setting, prior to those end year review processes, anything that has to blend multiple disciplines or verticals within the organization, I think is great because it fosters the understanding of importance and what critical aspects each person is paying attention to. And you end up weighting. And I don't mean as in like weighing, I mean, but you give a priority, you give importance, you give a weight to a particular skill within a vertical. And that really helps when you end up doing the evaluation of two employees that both had great years, but do different things, right? How
Yeah.
do you evaluate that? This is a way that we talk through this. And I don't know, just once again, shameless plug, but
Yeah.
something that I found has worked
Yes, that
ridiculously well.
yes. Kick off your new year or end the year and review and
Yeah,
prepare
but do it with a coach.
with a coach. And that's really the point of this day or this conversation that we're having here is
Apparently.
business
Yeah.
coaching is not just for the one, it's for the many,
It's for the
everyone.
all. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
love
can
that.
coach your teams, we can coach you. Using a coach is essential, I believe. Not that because I have bias or anything, but I think it is essential to your team and to you to grow. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, enough shameless plugs from us. Mike, we're wrapping up here.
Yeah,
Final words, final thoughts?
I think I just wrapped up. Anything
I
from you?
think you did too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, have a good one, everyone. Thanks for being on.
Thank you all.